Hey everyone, this video is on Module 11, which is about relating to your audience. Before we get started, like usual, we'll get started with some announcements. So you should have gotten your informative speech feedback by now, both personalized on your actual submission in addition to the global feedback email I sent out last week. I just wanted to cover some of the larger themes that stood out for me across all of my sections. The first one being make sure that you are speaking extemporaneously. I've said this a million times and I'll continue to say it till the very end of the semester. Do not read your outlines and do not memorize and repeat your outlines. Your outlines are just there as a framework, as a guide. And then what I want you doing is to just deliver that information as you would if you were having a normal conversation with somebody, right? So you wouldn't be reading a list of things or memorizing something to repeat to somebody. You'd be having a normal conversation, right? So just pretend like it's a normal conversation. You're speaking extemporaneously. I promise you that you can say all the ums and uhs and whatever vocalized pauses you want, and you will not lose as many points as you would if you were reading. Okay. So the manuscript penalty is 10 points. Even if you said like every other word, I still probably wouldn't take 10 points away from you because I want you speaking extemporaneously, right? So please make sure you're doing that. Second big one that stood out was the references. So both the reference page only needs to be on the prep outline, and then make sure that reference page is actually a reference page and not just like a list of links or something like that. Make sure you're doing the APA 7th edition reference page style. Again, go back to previous modules where we talked about that, or you can go to the OWL Purdue website, which is super helpful. And you can also ask me for help about references. Okay, so I'm happy to help you put together your reference page. In addition to that, make sure that your prep outline, you have the proper in-text citations. So that's when you've got like the author's last name, comma, the year that they wrote it in parentheses. Speaking of years, also make sure that all of your references are from 2016 or sooner. If you do not have 3 references that are not from 2016 or sooner and don't fit the requirements for the assignment, then those extra references will not count towards your grade. So make sure they're all from 2016 or sooner. Make sure you're using APA 7th reference page, in-text citations on the prep outline, and then the speaking outline, you can go ahead and write out the oral citation that you would say in your speech. And then finally, the last one was time management. So make sure you're paying attention to the time requirements for each speech. You do get that 30-second buffer on each end, so that's fine. But if you are going short of that or even over that, you're either not including enough information or you're including too much information, right? So we want to make sure that we are being brief and concise, but that we're also being clear. So definitely pay attention to the time requirements and make sure that you're fitting all of your information within that time requirement. And then lastly, you have your Shark Tank speeches due this weekend. So remember, I'll say this again, I'll say it a couple times. Group leaders are responsible for submitting the prep outline and the video on behalf of the group. And then every group member is responsible for submitting their own speaking outline. And remember, for your speaking outline, all I need is like your phase or whatever part that you are actually saying. That's all I need to see in your speaking outline. The prep outline, everybody's all together with all that information. Your speaking outline, just what you personally are saying or outlining for what you're saying. All right, relating to your audience. So whenever you are, trying to give a speech or, present something, whatever it may be, there's a lot of different contextual factors that come into being able to effectively relate to your audience. So I mean, there's a couple things just as like, are you inside? Are you outside? How is the acoustics in the room? Are you going to need a microphone? Are you on a stage? Is it a small audience? Is it a large audience, right? So all these different things kind of come into play when you are trying to relate to your audience. But for sure, what you want to do in order to relate to them is to analyze them. So next week in Module 12, we'll be going over some audience analysis and how you can get that analysis and also incorporate it into your speech, which you'll need to do for your last big speech, which is your persuasive speech. So analyzing your audience is just like, sending out it can be something as simple as like, raise your hand if you've ever blah, 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 right? That's something that you can get a rough idea of how your audience feels about something. You could also send out a survey before you give your speech and ask them questions about the topic. That way, you know how to tailor your message to your audience when you actually go and deliver it. So then, obviously, you want to adjust as necessary. You can come in with your idea and your framing of how you want to deliver your speech, but if your audience is not being receptive to it, then you're going to need to adjust on the fly, right? So, um, trying to make sure that the audience understands that they should care about what it is you're saying is going to all is going to be helped by analyzing your audience and being able to adjust to them as necessary, right? Because if you start talking to somebody and they don't care about what you're saying, they're not going to pay attention to you and you're just going to be talking to a wall. um, so if you're able to articulate why they should care and get them to actually care and to do that, that's going to help you become a more effective speaker, better persuader, and it's going to help you lead people to the end goal that you want them to get to. All right, so for what's due this week, you have your Module 11 quiz due tonight by 11:59 p.m. as you do every Wednesday. And then this Sunday, you have your Shark Tank speech due. So your group leader is responsible for submitting the video file, the prep outline, in addition to their own speaking outline. And then every group member is responsible for submitting their own speaking outline, okay? Make sure that everyone who is in the group, their name is listed on the prep outline. And then obviously you should be all introducing yourself in your video as well. You also have your teamwork evaluation form for each group member. So kind of similar to what we did last week with the teamwork evaluation form. Now we're going to be doing like the final version of that, where you're actually going to be giving point scores for your group members. And then I will take your feedback and use that for each group member's teamwork score on the rubric. As always, if you have any questions, definitely let me know. I'm happy to help. Good luck on your Shark Tank speeches. I'm really excited to listen to all of them. See you next week.